Yeah, let's talk about Arbok.
Right.
So, do you have any strong memories of Arbok?
Do I have any strong memories of Arbok? So I
Yeah.
definitely remember Arbok more than I remember Ekins. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the things that jump out to me as things that I remember. Um, I remember it having like a needle attack in the anime where it would like open up its
Mm-hmm.
mouth and like white needles would come out of it, which I always thought looked
That'd
pretty.
be pin needle attack.
Is that pin needle? Well, I remember
Pin needle.
thinking that was like a pretty cool animation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that depending on which region you're in, they change the pattern on its hood.
Yeah, I do love that. I like this is one of those things I love where they have like regional nuance. And I don't mean like different regional forms, which are also cool. And when they got introduced, I was into it. Um, but the regional nuance where the Arbok is exactly the same, like the range of stats and sizes is all going to be the same. But depending on where you catch your Arbok, it looks different. I love that. I think that's such a cool little
Yeah,
detail to make the world feel a bit more real.
yeah. And is that
And that was the thing that I was thinking about when I was doing my pictures. I was like, which Arbok am I gonna do?
mm,
And I think, in the end, I did go with like the OG because that's the one I remember the most.
yeah?
Um, but yeah.
Well, that was going to be my question because I assume that you would know the answer to this. Is that something that they have brought through to the 3D games, the regional variants for Arbok?
Yeah, yes, I believe so. Like, I don't know how detailed it is in the new games. Um, but like I know that I also really like the thought put into the different designs because if you look at like the OG Arbok where it's got like the big sweep of black and then it's got two like almond shaped
Mm,
red and yellow bits, it's designed to look like a
yeah,
face. So it's designed to be threatening,
yeah.
which like mimics predators in the real animal kingdom as well.
Mm.
So like other snakes. There was that I saw a thing floating around the internet that's like the backs of tigers' ears have black patches on so that anything sneaking up on the tiger thinks the tiger can see it because it gets mistaken for eyes.
Ah,
That's fucking cool. Um, but like, and I like how the different Arbok designs um look like different faces
yeah.
and they look like um different creepy faces. I think there's one that almost looks a bit like a haunter
Mm,
with its like point where it's got some points for its mouth. Um and I do like that the options that you get for different Arboks just there are some quite distinct variants
mm,
that I just think the designs are fantastic.
yeah. Well, I believe snakes are like one of the creatures that we have a lot of subconscious like go tos. So if something looks like a snake, we there's a certain subconscious trigger to make us not not everyone, but like a lot of people and animals scared of if you think it's a snake. Um, and
Yes.
that's one of the reasons why cats' ears fold back because it makes their head look more like a snake's head.
Ah,
Mm,
yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I do really. I think that the Arbok designs are. Hang on, I'm just having a look now. So there's 1, 2, 5, 10, 13. I don't think it's 13. I think Jesse's Arbok is the same as the main pattern Arbok. But if you, yeah, so according to Bulbapedia, there are like um it looks like 12 different designs and they all look like creepy faces and they're all fucking cool.
Yeah.
Um, and there are some that appear in like Pokemon cards. There are some that appear in like there's one that only appears in like Pokemon Ranger. which I think is really interesting. Like I like that they have spread it out
Mm-hmm.
across um the different forms of media. Um, so and we'll get to the Pokédex entries later, but because we're talking about this now, um, in the and it also shows like the progression as Pokemon knowledge evolves over time and develops. In Pokemon Yellow, Pokedex entry says there are six patterns, but
Mm-hmm.
in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, it says there are known to be more than 20. Um, so apparently eight distinct designs are known and have circulated. Four have appeared in the games,
Yeah.
but only three in main series games. But they are frequently referenced um, throughout uh, the other media. Like Agatha has a distinct looking Arbok, and Koga has a distinct looking Arbok, which I think is cool. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think when you're having a game or a show like this where things frequently look the same,
Yeah.
having a way to distinguish, the ones you're supposed to be paying attention to while you watch the show is useful.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah. Um, and where I'm assuming that it's going to be different, because like there'll be lots of different variants for Pikachu, but
Yes.
like it will have made this has been a very specific point that it's made that it has different variations, whereas I'm guessing that Pikachu's going to have a lot of different like Pokedex entries and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
like it won't be specifically in the Hawaiian Islands or what we're dubbing as the Hawaiian Islands. It's got blue eyes, a la that episode of the anime where there's
Yeah.
the blue-eyed Pikachu. Um,
Yep.
Whereas this, they're making a specific point of the variations. The other thing that I think of when I think of Arbok, and I mentioned it in the drawings, is that I want to say Arbok is the first Pokemon that we come across that like we know canonically dies,
Yes.
and that for me is like one of those probably one of those turning points of that like they could have gone down a darker route with it but chose not to, and I sometimes think of like there's a lot of I feel like that imagery of the cut in half Arbok that is quite clearly dead, used for like memes. I feel like it has kind of penetrated the kind of the digital culture for Pokemon more so
Yeah.
thanks to that image from the manga.
Yeah, very much so. I think like that image of the Arbok being cut in half, it has circulated. I think it's like one of the first things I ever saw that showed me how much darker the manga is than
Mm.
the show and the games. And even with, you know, Marowak dying being a key plot point in the first
Yeah,
game, uh the Arbok being like slashed in half was so much more graphic
yeah,
that like oh yeah, I remember that like floating around school and people being like, "Have you seen this? Have you seen how grim the Pokemon manga is? Oh my God," you know?
yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of what I initially think of when I think of Arbok. I feel like I've not particularly had one on my team. Um, um, like I've had one, but it's just gone straight in a box.
Yeah, I'm the same. But yeah, like I think I don't. Well, I was gonna say I'm not a huge poison type user. Apart from Crobat, if I'm gonna have a poison type on my team, it's gonna be Crobat.
Yeah.
Uh, I haven't really used Arbok. I've got one in every game because I like to complete the Pokedex,
Mm.
but that's it. I've never really played competitively with Arbok.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm different. Where I've mentioned it on this podcast. Like I like poison type. I think it's like a cool concept. Like it relates to the real world, and I also like the fact that you can like poison. You can poison your enemy, and it like is draining it um, regardless of what your Pokemon does, and even if that Pokemon faints, the poison's still taking effect. You know, unless they like sort it out. But even though I like poison type, even in Gen 1, I think that there are other options. Um, like, I
Yeah.
mean, Venusaur is like grass poison type. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
chances of me swapping out for that is very unlikely. Uh, Vileplume, which has like been one of my mains,
Vileplume again.
like
I think they're good because even in like the first generation when they technically weren't dual type because you'd only get single types in the first generation, the fact that they had such a wide range of both grass and poison type moves made them really useful compared to um Pokemon that do stick to a single type even if they were later given a dual type.
mm,
Um and yeah, like yeah, Arbok wouldn't be one that I went for if I was even if I was picking from those early generations.
yeah,
And like, Crobat was introduced in Gen 2 and it's been my partner ever since. Um in Gen 1, I don't know if I really used poison types much at all. Like, I remember Koga being a fucking beast,
yeah.
but I don't really remember. But then again, Gen 1, I played it when I was a very small child and I just had like a behemoth of a over-leveled starter do everything for me.
Yeah, yeah, same here.
I didn't put much thought into strategy that much at the time.
Mm, yeah, uh, like I mean, and I still do somewhat to this day. Like I am not that
Yeah.
keen on at least I wasn't then, and I'm still not now. I wasn't that keen on moves that did not take damage.
Yes.
Um,
And I think of all of the status based moves, poison is my favorite
yeah,
because like paralysis is the worst because you can be paralyzed and it might still attack you.
yeah,
Um and usually if my Pokemon is paralyzed, it's fucking dead and useless. And if my enemy's Pokemon is paralyzed, it can do a backflip and still hit me. Like uh,
yeah,
paralysis is fucking shit. I think poison is the best one because although it doesn't prevent them from trying to attack you, yeah, like you said, it can wear away at you. Toxic is an incredible move because it not just continues to poison you, it poisons you by incrementally larger amounts. So in like 5 moves, that Pokemon's fucking gone.
yeah,
Um, if you last 5 moves to wear it off. But normally I like a move that does damage
yeah,
like while it's causing a status affliction.
yeah,
So I like some like this is why I like Crobat, I like Poison Fang and I like Cross Poison because they do damage with a chance of poison.
yeah,
I think Toxic is the exception because it gets exponentially more impactful with each
mm,
move. But I wouldn't keep say like poison powder
yeah,
or something like that. And even at like lower levels, poison sting is pretty good because it's not the strongest move, but it still does damage with the potential for poison.
yeah,
And I would definitely lean towards one of those
yeah,
than yeah, something else.
yeah. Well, I mean, my personal uh like attack strategy normally, if I've got a poison, like grass poison type, usually, because I think we're the same where it's like I'd rather have dual types than like single types. It's like why wouldn't I just like double
Yeah.
up? Um, but
I I realize we're gonna get like some way more hardcore like battle fans stumble across this one day and say we're fucking like amateurs for like the extent of our strategy just being typing.
yeah, well, what can I say? You know, send all of your hate mail to our Patreon, please. Um, so so I like to I've had this method for Bulbasaur. Poison. I want to say poison powder, and leech seed, followed by and then start using like vine whips, giga drains and stuff like that. So that's how I
Yeah.
like to do it. I like to poison them so that they've got that chipping away at them, and then me using moves that's also chipping away, but also
Yeah.
giving like health back.
Yeah. I do like that grass types have that. Obviously, like Mega Drain, Giga Drain. When Leech Life went from having 30 base attack to 90 base attack, it became such an OP move. Like as a kid, I hated Leech Life because when you were fighting the Zubats, it took well fucking long to kill the Zubats because they kept using
Yeah,
Leech Life. But when you had a Zubat that you wanted to use, Leech Life was a piece of shit move that
yeah.
wasn't worth it. Like I don't know how that always fucking happened. But now that Leech Life has gone from one of the weakest moves in the game to one of the strongest moves in the game, and it recovers your HP. Oh my God, my Crobat's keeping Leech Life finally.
Mm. I mean, I, I've been in that situation. I feel like across loads of games, and it's like the thing that's used against you will be absolutely tanked once you get it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you probably come across that more so than me. You liking Crobats, um,
hmm
whereas
That's yeah. I feel like with a lot of Pokemon, even if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try and mix it up this time, if their learn set at low levels is not good, I'll end up using something else until they've leveled up a bit, and then I won't want to use them because I'm accustomed to using something else. Like I did a playthrough of something, Let's Go Eevee, where I was like, I haven't used Fearow very much. I always default to Pidgeot because Pidgey has a better learn set, so I'm going to try and use Fearow this time.
yeah,
And I didn't. I still ended up defaulting to Pidgey because Pidgey had a better learn set at a younger age. And I was like, it's fine. I'll switch it out later. And then I didn't want to because I connected with that Pidgey.
mm,
And I think the one Pokemon I actually stick with it with is Crobat, because I have that connection to it,
yeah,
because I'm a sentimental silly. And like I do end up like waiting for a Zubat to evolve to Golbat before I really start using it on things. But I think the reason it didn't piss me off is because it evolves at a low enough level and starts getting good moves that you can usually catch Zubat quite early on in the game. By the time it's a Golbat
yeah,
and by the time it has good moves, you don't necessarily have another poison option yet,
yeah.
unless you're sticking with a bug. And because it's also flying type, it then frees up two spaces instead of having a bug and a flying type,
Mm,
to get those two uh types on your team.
yeah,
Or yeah.
yeah. I
And you
mean,
get stabbed with poison type moves, which you don't get if you're using them from a Weedle or Beedrill
yeah.
or however far in your evolution you are.
I mean, I've had that. I've had that issue. When when you go to like a new region and you go, okay, like I like to use the different Pokemon from that region really.
Yeah.
But then like in Scarlet and Violet, um, I've caught a Jigglypuff and I've caught a Mareep, and these
Yep.
are two Pokemon that I really like and know quite well.
Yeah.
And particularly Mareep. It's like Ampharos. I think is an absolute beast of a Pokemon, and it's like uh, come on, like incentivize me to like use one of one of like Gen 9's electric types, because at
Yeah.
the minute it's like
T-
am I just
Yeah,
gonna be
no, I
using
get
this
that.
Ampharos till the end now?
I mean, I used Pour Me, and I really liked Pour Me. I didn't think I was going to, especially because I had Quaquaval as my starter, and Quaquaval I think is part fighting, but it doesn't have any fighting type moves because Mega Kick is a normal type move,
Yeah.
which annoyed me. So my Quaquaval has like three water type moves and Mega Kick, and I only really use it against rock and fire types. I don't use it against other stuff where fighting might come in handy. And then the second Pokemon on my team was a Pawmi, which is also fighting type, and I was like, I've got two fighting types. I don't like overlapping on, and even then, Pawmi has one fighting type move and a ground type move, and I
Mm.
use it for the ground type move a lot more than I use it for other stuff. And then the third Pokemon I keep on my team is a Talonflame, which again is one that I have said to myself repeatedly, don't use Talonflame again. Don't use
Yeah.
Talonflame again. Mix it up, try something else. And Talonflame is just such a cool Pokemon. It's so good. It's like fast and it's got these powerful flying
Yeah.
type moves, it's got really powerful fire type moves. I think it's a beast and I like using it.
Mm.
And like I also used Tenta no Toadscruel
Yeah.
which I thought was cool as a ground and grass type. But then I'm still using my Pawmi for the ground type moves a lot of the
Mm.
time. Like it doesn't come in that handy really.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've got a Grimmsnarl, which again, not a Gen 9 Pokemon, but I think it's very cool, and I called it Nandor.
Yeah.
Um, because I decided so Annihilate,
Yeah.
the Primeape evolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
I decided I was gonna do a What We Do in the Shadows team. So I have a Grimmsnarl called Nandor, an Annihilate called Laszlo, a Gothitelle called Nadja,
Yeah.
and then I have a Tinkertink as baby Colin Robinson. So it's specifically season 4,
Yeah.
where Colin Robinson's a baby with his hammer.
Oh.
Um, and I feel like if there was one in the game, I'd wrap it up with a Chansey called Gizmo. So that would be my Shadows team, and I was putting it together and I actually haven't used it as a consistent team, but I did keep Nandor on my team because he is a beast.
Yeah. Am I right in thinking? Because I've only seen like the odd episode of it, but I enjoyed what I saw. Am I right in thinking Colin Robinson's the energy drainer?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, so in the fourth season, I will not give away too much as to why, because it's really funny to see the reveal. But in the fourth season, he's a child. And it's like Mark Protch's face CGI'd onto various children's bodies,
mm,
and it's fucking hilarious. I feel like you need to sit down and watch it.
yeah,
Maybe should we binge it when you come to London?
yeah, mate, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Um,
I will make you watch all 5 seasons in however small handful of days you're here.
uh, well, yes, I'm very much looking forward to. I'm very much looking forward to being down in London because, in addition to doing the show, it will probably be my first time that I've not had that I'm predicting it'll be almost like a bit of a holiday, and it'll be the first time that I've felt like I've been able to have a little bit of a break since and like hang out and do cool stuff since July. So I'm really I can definitely feel myself flagging now. Um, but yes, I would very much enjoy me and you just chilling on a sofa for I don't know 25 hours because I feel like that will be the amount of time that my brain needs to switch off.
That sounds like a fucking vibe, mate.
Yeah, mate. And you never know. I feel like if possible, we could maybe do a stream on one of those
Yeah,
days.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Not one of these, but just like a stream doing something cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
We should. Shall we play the Scarlet DLC together, and
oh
then
yeah,
we'll fucking Well, I can point out everything I fucking hate about it. I'll just sit there and be a really annoying bitch the whole time.
Not possible, mate. Not possible. Uh, well, should we have a look at the dex entries?
Yeah, let's do that.
Right, let's do it. Okay, here's Arbok. I feel like that there is the classic. Like I want to say that's like the Kanto markings on the.
Yes. Those are the OG Arbok markings.
Yeah,
Those are the ones that I think, those of us who were introduced to Arbok with Jesse in the first generation, those are the ones that we think of first.
yeah.
Yeah.
I say what I think has been interesting so far is that Arbok is, I feel like, has not only been integral to the series enough that we've been able to speak about it so much, but also that we've not really mentioned Jesse's Arbok at all at this point.
Yeah, that is true. And like, I feel like Jesse's Arbok was really important to the series
Mm.
because it was there like every episode. But I don't remember any big emotional beats with Jesse's Arbok apart from when she gives it up.
Yeah,
Like, I think it was just kind of like there doing her bidding.
yeah, yeah. Well, I feel like once they evolve, I feel um, like Wheezing is the one that seems to get the personality arc.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
Yes, definitely.
and maybe it's partly
Um,
to do with the voice actor. I don't know about yourself, but I prefer James to Jesse as far as the villains are concerned. Um,
I mean, James is a little like, well, James I don't love his backstory. Jessie has a more sympathetic backstory, but she's a less sympathetic character, you know?
mm,
And James is like a privileged shithead. Who, don't get me wrong, there's emotional beats, but I empathize less. Um, but he is like the more empathetic character in it. Like he gets pushed around a bit more. Like he's a little soft boy. You want to look after him a little bit.
yeah,
And like, Jesse's the one who like slaps you around, which is fine if you're into that. But
yeah,
I feel like they both awakened things in people who were too young to realize what they were internalizing as children,
mm,
for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, I think yeah, James is the more kind of like vulnerable, emotional character, so he's easier to connect with.
yeah,
Um, and I think, and also out of all of the Team Rocket Pokemon, of Gen 1, I think Victory Bell and Lickitung are funnier.
yeah,
Like Arbok and Weezing were effectively there first as Ekans and Coughing,
yeah,
but by the time they evolve, Lickitung and Victory Bell are on the scene as well.
mm,
And I think those are a bit more memorable once there's a bigger pool of Pokemon to think about when you're thinking about Team Rocket's Pokemon.
yeah. Um, and I think when you look at them as like an arc as well, um, they also get a bit blown out of the water by Mime Junior, Wobbuffet. Like
Oh, Wobbuffet.
yeah, like they like Chimeco, like they make it
Chameko.
into the yeah, they make it into the like into the song and stuff, whereas Arbok and Weezing don't make it into the song
Yeah. Well,
as often.
James, I think I saw this floating around somewhere. James is the only character in the whole show that has that every time you see him catch a Pokemon, he asks the Pokemon if it wants to come with him before he catches it.
Mm,
Like obviously there are plenty where the rest of the main characters do that, but James is the only one who's done it every single time. There is at least one Pokemon that everyone else has caught without asking permission first.
yeah, and I mean the thing with Jesse and James as well, it's like they are both characters who could easily become protagonists. With just some very slight narrative tweaks. Um,
Yeah.
I, if it was revealed that they were going to do a Jesse and James spin-off series, I feel like there'd be a lot of people who would be up for that.
Oh yeah. I've seen a lot of people sort of lamenting the fact that there are new main characters in the Pokemon anime now who have been like, okay, Ash's story is over, that's fair. It was getting a bit tired anyway. But being like, oh my God, no more Team Rocket.
Mm.
Like they're more worried about leaving Team Rocket behind, which I get.
Yeah.
Because like Ash's story arc was getting old, right? Because he won the Orange Islands League. So arguably it could have ended there and they could have introduced another person for Generation 2. But they didn't. And then there was like a soft reboot halfway through. It's like Ash Ketchum is 10 years old. It's like, but he's going into his fucking fourth or whatever journey.
Mm.
He's not 10 years old. Um, and now they're like, he can't, like, he has to lose in order to justify
Mm.
continuing his journey, right? And also for like the children watching to have a role model that learns how to lose gracefully. I think that's an important lesson. I don't begrudge the writers for making Ash lose. However, losing for 25 years is too much. Then you're just a fucking
Uh,
loser, and I'm not cheering you on anymore, dude. Like, be better. So they made Ash win. They did the Master's Journey series where he wasn't about um he was about training his Pokemon to be the best.
mm.
And I think having a more refined focus while Go was focusing on catching all of them, uh and making Ash the one who wants to be good at strategy and Go the one who wants to collect them all, rather than have Ash try and do everything, was a good decision.
Mm.
And I feel like if you'd seen more of that in the comparison between Ash and his other companions earlier on, with Ash having one goal, the others having another,
Mm.
because like Misty was, oh, I'm a water trainer and only water. Like, okay, but you're still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And Brock was like a Pokemon breeder, but it was never really clear what that meant
Yeah.
compared to a trainer, because he was still training and he was still a gym leader. I think they got close to it in Generation 3, where like May did the competitions. Um, but I think it was refined with Ash and Go, if you've seen the newest ones. So Ash got to the end of his story arc after a long time. Team Rocket didn't. They did
Mm.
not successfully capture Pikachu, which is
Yeah.
the only thing they ever wanted to do. Um, I haven't actually watched the last episode, so I don't know how that storyline resolves. I'm gonna have to go out and find it now that I'm thinking about
Mm.
it. But like, if Team Rocket just, reach self-actualization and decide that capturing Pikachu and giving it to Giovanni isn't going to make them happy, great. But at the same time, like, that's something that's going to be pushed into the background to resolve the stories of the other
Mm.
characters, like the more main characters. And they were a really good bit of like comic relief.
Yeah.
Like, they had underneath it all, they weren't bad people,
Mm.
right? They were making the choices they felt the need to make because of their situations. And you get that when you learn their backstories. And you see glimmers of that in the way they treat their Pokemon, the way they treat each other sometimes. Like when James gives up his bottle cap collection for Meowth.
Yeah.
Oh, I cried. Oh, I cried so much. Um, I wish someone would love me like that, like James loves Meowth. Um, and like how in all of the like big ticket like in the films, the
Mm.
big ticket world ending things, they always come through and they're on the right side of history, even if they don't get the appreciation for it because they did their bit in the background. And you can't help that, like Team Rocket are anti-heroes, they're not just villains. Like,
Mm.
you want to follow along them, you want to see what they're doing. And I do not blame people for missing them more than like Ash and the team. Like, literally, there's a whole bit where Ash wins in the last competition he ever does,
Mm.
where like his mum's watching at home on TV, but Team Rocket have gone into the stands to see him do his last ever battle. And it's like, your own fucking mum didn't come and see you, but your enemies did. What
Mm.
fucking legends.
Yeah.
Like, they're good people. They're
Yeah.
good people, really.
Yes. Well, I've got like a tiny headcanon, which is that like part of the reason why Ash's Pikachu gets so gets so strong is because Team Rocket keep basically leveling him up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I imagine he must battle them at least like once or twice, like every other episode. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like of all the battles that Ash has and Pikachu has, like you can cut that in half without them.
Yeah. Yeah. Easily.
Yeah, and if
Um,
it works in the same way that like the games do, he's getting EXP for every single one of those.
um, yeah, no,
Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right.
yeah,
And I think yeah, I think I like these ones where we get to talk about Team Rocket a bit more because they're very cool. I think
yeah,
Team Rocket are punk as well. Like Team Rocket are like give no fucks,
yeah.
gender bending, outsiders, and I can't imagine why anyone I know would identify with that.
The same here, the same here. I don't know why I'd relate to James as the little soft boy that he is.
I
Uh,
do love that there's just absolutely no when so the bit where like Jesse's in the ringmaster costume and James is in the tutu. I love that there's just like absolutely no question that that's how they're going to dress.
yeah,
There's no like, oh, which one's going to be in the pretty dress? Like, obviously it's James. And like, it's not challenged. It's not even seen as something to poke fun at, which is
yeah,
a big thing in the 90s. It was just that's how they want to be. And they fucking nail it every single
yeah, they
time.
do.
Like,
Uh,
I think there was one where they were doing like a Queen Marie Antoinette vibe and like they'd tried the artwork of the dress they wanted and were just like it looks so much better on James. We can't justify putting it on Jesse when it looks so much better on James.
uh, and that's just the way it is. Some boys look good in
Hmm.
dresses. So be it.
Yeah, like I feel like there are lots of things about James that are still like traditionally masculine and things about Jesse that are traditionally feminine, but neither of them are afraid to embrace the other end of their personality,
Yeah,
which like is more than you can say for Ash.
yeah.
Look at the way he approached Erica's gym, like a little pig.
There we go. This is how Ash Ketchum gets cancelled.
Uh,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, Arbok's Pokédex entries, which we said we were going to do about 20 minutes ago.
Yes. Honestly, we mentioned this on loads of the episodes, but like before the episodes, we're normally like, yeah, this one won't take very long, and here we are, X amount of hours later.
Do you remember when we first came up with this concept and we because we did the Pokemon deep dive on Social Distance Warriors, and then we went, hey, let's do another episode where we just go through them Pokemon by Pokemon and talk about our hot takes. And we thought we would get through every Pokemon in one day.
Yeah.
Before, oh, some we'll have a little chat about, and some we won't really say much. There is literally not a single Pokemon we haven't waffled on for fucking ages.
But that's we know that that's what our listeners and watchers love about this channel. So
We know what we're like now.
we
We know we can't be trusted to keep it concise.
yeah we're basically this podcast is becoming an advert for ADHD medication.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Right, and on that note, we've got Pokemon Red and Green, which is another one where it is translated and is put back into
Ooh.
Fire Red. So let's see if this can live up to the hype. It is rumoured that the ferocious warning markings on its belly differ from area to area. Oh, so they'd already seeded that, like in the very first generation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Yellow goes on to elaborate. The frightening patterns on its belly have been studied. 6 variations have been confirmed.
Ah,
So in Gen 1, there were 6 that were known of. And obviously that then progresses through the generations. We're sticking with the frightening pattern for Stadium. If it encounters an enemy, it raises its head, intimidating the opponent with the frightening pattern on its body. I like that. That gives us a bit more context on how the pattern is used rather than there just is one.
Yeah. Well,
Stadium Professor's pulling his finger out.
my thoughts is because we know what Stadium Professor's like now. I feel like that
Hmm.
Arbok viewed Stadium Professor as the enemy.
Yeah, maybe. I think he was on his best behavior when he wrote this one, but I feel like he probably had the most experience with an Arbok like rearing up and baring its chest at him. Because
Going,
I don't know, maybe he fed Arbok babies to someone else. Who knows?
yeah. Well, we know that he's up for anything.
Feeding the Spearow babies. Yeah.
Probably going.
All right.
Are you gonna call me fucking stubby?
Um, so gold again gives us more context. Transfixing prey with the face-like pattern on its belly, it binds and poisons the frightened victim. I love that there's like no ambiguity. Like everything that comes near an Arbok is fucking terrified.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like this is more detail. Like I feel like Stadium Professor has been threatened
Mm,
by the Arbok in his care, but Gold Professor has actually watched an Arbok deal with like prey in the wild. Like
yeah.
those are the contrasting attitudes I'm getting from these
Yeah.
different entries.
Am I right in thinking that one of our box moves is scary face?
Yeah.
So
It's
that
got like, scary face glare, all those ones that mean look, all those ones that are based on like looking scary.
yeah. So this is all linked to the face pattern,
Yeah.
and I also like the transfixing. As if it's got like a hypnotic quality to it.
Mm. I feel like that's where I was thinking about the Jafar Cobra
Mm,
staff because that had hypnotic powers
yeah.
and they had to smash it to get the Sultan from being unhypnotized.
Mm,
And I feel like that's probably why I was thinking Arbok and the as well as the hood.
yeah.
Maybe that's what I had in mind when I was trying to pull out an Aladdin reference for my drawing.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
maybe I had also subconsciously uh, picked up on the hypnotic element to it.
For
I mean,
your Ekans.
yeah. I mean, there may be some. I mean, maybe it's like culturally there is some cultures where they mention that it is hypnotic. Snakes are hypnotic. You got
Mm.
snake charming and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
maybe it's like there's a subconscious amount of hypnotism with snakes anyway that it's tapping into too.
I think that's very, very plausible.
Yeah.
So Silver goes on to say, with a very vengeful nature, it won't give up the chase, no matter how far, once it targets its prey. I feel like this is not the first Pokemon we've come across that has had its like dedication referenced in a similar manner.
Yeah. I want to say, is it Pharaoh who might have also been vengeful?
Yeah, I think Firo and Arbok would have some kind of like camaraderie. I could see them getting along.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't
Um,
surprise me if there is some trainer in one of the games that has got a Pharaoh and an Arbok.
yeah, for sure.
Um, but
Um,
but yeah, it's. Do you know what I'm getting the feeling, right? I've not got anything to base it on, but how Ekins' dex entries came across versus this, it feels like they came up with Arbok and they've got loads of lore around it, and they were like, well, we can't just have this massive snake be like a one and only like evolve a single
mm,
evolution. Um, so let's give it like a pre-evolution that it grows into, because otherwise we're going to have to like make it's like stats like off the chain. Whereas this is something that we
yeah,
want to give to the villains. So maybe they went, okay, so they've all got Arboks, and then they went, well, we need to have like a pre-evolution or give Arbok something to evolve into.
just a little baby regular snake.
Yeah, so I don't know, like I say, I haven't got anything to base it on, but it feels like maybe they came up with Arbok first, and then came up with Ekans for it to turn
I
into.
can I can see that being possible.
Yeah.
So Crystal says, To intimidate foes, it spreads its chest wide and makes eerie sounds by expelling air from its mouth.
That's just a snake, that though.
That is just a snake, but also I think that ties into because like Jesse's Arbok was quite a shouty boy
Yeah.
because he sounded like he had quite a bit of lung power. He had that quite distinct like noise. So I guess that I wouldn't say it's that like scary, but I guess it could be if under the right circumstances.
Yeah. Well, let's
Um,
see what Stadium Professor Two's up to.
Same as gold. Stadium 2 is copying someone's work.
Oh, God. I
Oh,
preferred it back when he was cracking open metapods.
yeah.
Uh,
Um, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, we're back onto the dick swinging, which is always my favorite bit of these entries.
yeah.
This Pokemon is terrifically strong in order to constrict things with its body. It can even flatten steel oil drums. Once Arbok wraps its body around its foe, escaping its crunching embrace is impossible.
That feels like
That,
something. That feels like something that they told, because we know that he's a furry. We know that he, you
yeah.
know, oh, beautiful plumage. I imagine that is something that they were told so that it's like, no, you don't want to be sticking an Arbok all over yourself. Generation 3.
Yeah, well, like the language of it, it's terrifically strong,
Yeah.
right? It's not like horrifically strong or ferociously or terrifyingly. It's terrific, which is usually a positive. I think someone's got like a compression kink.
Yeah, yeah,
I reckon furry professors like found a way to be horny for Arbok.
yeah. Oh, totally. Like this whole it can, like the only reason why Generation 3 Professor wasn't taking all their clothes off is because it was wrapping up around steel drums, and it's like I bet I'd just admire from afar.
Death grip Arbok.
uh, I mean that is an issue, that isn't it? Do you have the death grip from spending too much time on PokeHub and having Arbok sliver all over you? Maybe you need some relationship therapy.
I'm not proud of myself, but I've done it now. That's what Generation 3 professor said. Um,
why is this lab all sticky? Never mind. Never mind. Why is that steel drum flattened? Never mind. It don't matter. Why have you got that ball gag in your mouth? Never mind.
Pokeball gag.
Oh, very good, very good.
Okay. All right. So Fire Red, this is the one that was originally in Japanese. The pattern on its belly appears to be a frightening face. Weak foes will flee at the sight of the pattern. I think that makes sense. Ties into intimidate
Yeah,
as a
because
yeah.
of using that Pokeball gag. I'm just like my mind has just immediately gone to like all the ball puns now. That's on you, that mate. That is on you.
Is it on me?
It is,
Is
yeah.
it on me?
Pokeball torture.
Hey!
uh, Master Ball. I'm just. Gen 3 Professor is an absolute honourable bastard.
Deviant.
Yeah, he is an absolute. He's an absolute. No wonder they didn't bring him back for Generation 4. Maybe that's the reason why Gen 4 is like so. Like, we found it to be like quite repetitious. Maybe it's because like Gen 4 they were like we can't go back to Gen 3 Professor.
We've got to get another fucking professor. This was too horny.
Just get Gen 2 Professor back, please, for the love of God.
Leaf Green goes back to it is rumoured that the ferocious warning markings differ from area to area.
Okay, so we now know that Gen 3 Professor had been fired by Leaf Green.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're having to repeat. They're going just copy and paste until we get to the end of the lawsuit.
Diamond and Pearl says the pattern on its belly is for intimidation. It constricts foes when they are frozen in fear. Again, I think that ties into a lot of its move pool. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think that Gen 3 Professor was frozen in fear. That's how they know that.
I think it was frozen with something else. Wee. Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the same as Gold and Silver.
Yeah, because they're copying and pasting until the end of the tribunal.
Black and White are the same as Diamond and Pearl.
Tribunal's still going on.
X is the same as Fire Red, which is the Japanese one again.
Yeah.
Y is the same as Crystal. Okay, so Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire is the horny Gen 3 Professor returned.
Yeah. But he's lost. He's lost all of his passion at this point because
he's copying and pasting his old work. He's plagiarizing himself.
Yeah, because he's like, well, if I can't touch him, I'm not fucking writing about him.
So Ultra Sun is the one that shows progression between the generations.
Yeah, because he's been
got
fired
the latest
at this
research. Yeah, finally someone's doing some fucking work instead of just like
instead of just getting off
the Pokemon. Ultra Sun says the latest research has finally been done. That isn't about how hard it can squeeze you. It's determined that there are over 20 possible arrangements of the patterns on its stomach, which, Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu, which is the same generation, still says 6 variations. So you can see how the different times and the different regions, people are doing different work. Yeah. And I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. I like this.
Yeah. I bet you they've both got like a WhatsApp group going. Hi, this is.
Well, I found 20.
Yeah, this is the Professor group. It's like Gen 3 Professor was removed by Gen 1 Professor, and it's like we don't talk about Gen 3 Professor anymore. Gen 7. Hello.
Ultra Moon is creepy as shit. After stunning its opponents with the pattern on its stomach, it quickly wraps them up in its body and waits for them to stop moving.
Yeah,
that is a graphic description.
Yeah.
Diamond and Pearl, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl goes back to the same as Diamond and Pearl. Scarlet goes back to Fire Red. Violet goes back briefly to its vengeful nature, but instead of saying its vengeful nature, it says it's very tenacious, and then goes on about how it won't give up the chase. So we're copying and pasting again, but yeah, I do feel like Gen 3 Professor threw a fucking horny spanner into the works on that one.
Oh yeah, we are on to you, Gen 3 Professor, and I'm glad that we're doing this podcast just to see the absolute vileness of your work. Something that I have noticed.
Eyes on you.
Yeah, all eyes on you indeed. You're fucking ripping open metapods, stealing eggs and getting naked and allowing Arbok to crush you. Hidden in plain sight. My question, although off track slightly, you'll probably know what this is. Kitakami, is that the name of the new region?
That is the name of the island that you visit on the New Regions DLC.
Okay, so that was the first thing that I wanted to ask, and then the second thing I wanted to ask is, so it's got 19 next to it, and we know from us doing this podcast it's actually Pokemon number 24. So does the Kitakami
that would be
dex
in the Kitakami Pokedex? So in each so when you look at the different dex entries, it tells you where in that specific Pokedex. So like it's 24 in total, but obviously if you're looking at say like a Sinnoh Pokedex, like Bulbasaur isn't number 1, but it is in the Kanto Pokedex. It's the same. It's in specific order of that region where it appears.
Yes. Well, the thing that I thought was like, it's just odd that they bumped it up like 5 spaces. So I was like, when I saw Kitakami, and then I was like, okay, so that must be basically the Kanto Dex But if it's 19, then it's
Mm.
not the Kanto Dex.
It's not like the first Pokemon you come across are Yanma and Poochyena. So it's a mishmash of different
Ah,
generations.
well, and is it all the big hitters?
Yeah. There are some big hitters and there are some that just sort of like fade into the background.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Ah,
I did like Sinister and Poltergeist, but for all the same reasons I liked Sinistea and Poltergeist.
yeah,
All the same reasons.
yeah, great puns.
Wasn't a different enough Pokemon to justify introducing it so soon after Sinistea and Poltergeist, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I do like those Pokemon because I'm easily pleased.
Uh, I am what's the word? Dead inside. So I am not as easily pleased.
You don't like a little T-pun ghosty boy?
Well, I don't like. Right now, this might be the thing that gets me fired from my own podcast. Uh, I I don't really like drinking tea.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I know. Uh, it was one of those things where when I was younger, it always struck me as like something that like older people did. And then I remember when I was in school, people would be drinking like cups of tea, like 13-year-olds drinking cups of tea, and I always thought it was really, I still thought it was odd. Um,
I feel like it's less odd than 13-year-old drinking coffee, which is what they do now.
is that what they? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
you get teenagers popping into Starbucks. I'm like, why do you need that much caffeine? You already have all the energy you're ever gonna have.
That's true. That is true. I mean, I do. I am fond of an energy drink, and I was even back then.
Oh, you're 12, Tom. You are 12 years old.
Do you know what? Right, I remember when I used to work in retail. So I'd have been about 17 or yeah, 18 when this happened. I remember my drinking energy drinks got to the point where uh, in one shift, I had 1 8-hour shift. I drank 10 like relentless cans.
How are you alive?
I don't know. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if this podcast isn't really happening, and this is just me foaming at
You're
the mouth.
hallucinating all of
Yeah,
this.
as an 18-year-old on a shop floor right now. Um, but should we have a look at the Smogon?
Let's have a look at some Smogon.
Okie doke. So, okay. So it's untiered, unlike Ekins, which actually made its way into the little cup. I really like the animation that they've used here. I think that's pretty cool. I feel like that's got better animation than the Ekins had. Got
Hmm.
high attack. Well, medium, decent attack, and somewhat decent speed. HP's not great. You'd have thought it'd be a tiny bit more of a heavy hitter. But okay stats, but obviously not enough to get it to be used competitively, which I do. I mean,
Yeah.
we've mentioned it on this podcast before. I think a lot of the two-stage Pokemon do struggle with that. I think.
Yeah. And I think Arbok is one of those unique ones where it's got a pretty distinct move pool that is designed for strategic use.
Yeah.
Like if you're just smashing your way through the game, you're not going to use an Arbok, but it does have a move pool that is designed for like setting up a big payoff.
Yeah.
Because, if you have like stockpile and swallow and spit up, and your Arbok is enough of a tank that it can withstand a few hits, which obviously it doesn't have the best HP, so you need to know how to use it. That move set is very specifically designed to be one that you plot in advance. So I feel like it'd probably do better in like double or even triple battles where it's got something supporting it
Yeah.
in order to make the best most effective use of those options. But yeah, I feel like using it on its own, it just isn't powerful enough to um like be worth using in a lot of situations. I think if you love Arbok, if Arbok is your favorite, if you really bonded with Jesse's one originally and now you always want it on your team, you will find um a way to use it. But those options available to you aren't enough to convince someone to use it if they didn't really want to.
Yeah. I think so. Looking at this screen, it's also making me go. Two thoughts have popped into my head. First of all, that it's single type poison. I'm surprised that when they went back and like retyped some of them, that they didn't go for poison dart type. I feel like that would have
Yeah.
I feel like that would have suited it quite well. But also, when I think about like Weezing, because Weezing got like variants, and other Pokemon have been given additional evolutions. I'm surprised that Arbok has not been given the same
Yeah.
almost reformatting.
Yeah. I think if there was like a version of the game where you could catch, you know how like Spinder is every single Spinder looks different.
Yeah.
I feel like if there was a game somewhere where you could catch all the different patterned Arboks, I think that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be pretty sick. Or they sometimes do that where you can like trade them in
Yeah.
in the game and get the other
But then
variants.
because it's not like a variant with like a new type or a distinctly new look, I think they probably wouldn't do that. Which is why I use Spinder, because the Spinders are not different. The Spinders are the same Pokemon, but they just generated it so the patterns on it were different every time,
Yeah.
which like you can do for Arbok. So I don't see why they don't.
Yeah.
And there could be like I reckon it'd be really great if like there was a bit in a future game with where there's like a snake expert
Mm.
who's like, I love snake Pokemon. My house is full of Ekans and Arbok and Seviper and Onyx and anything else that looks even remotely like a snake.
Mm.
There's like an Electros because he thought it was a snake and didn't realize it was an eel until he'd already made friends with it, like
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And he sets you a challenge to like go out and bring him all the different designs of Arbok that you can find.
Mm.
And then there's like, they're scattered all over the map. And then there's like only one with a very
Mm.
distinct, rare thing. And if you show him that one, he gives you like a big prize. I reckon
Yeah.
that would be a cool little side quest to have in a Pokemon game. They should hire us to make Pokemon games.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Well, they should hire us to do their Beyond the Pokedex or whatever the series is called. They should hire us to
I
do
have
so
not
much.
seen or heard anything else about that show since the first one where we were all like, oh, it's taking our bit, and it was shit.
Mm. Yeah.
I've not seen or heard anything else since, and it's like I'm following plenty of like Pokemon content based like places so that I am up to date on things we might want to talk about on here. Haven't heard a fucking thing about that show.
Yeah. That's the kind of longevity that listening to the Talking Trubbish podcast gives you. I mean, we're already in series 2, soon to be series 200. So
Yeah.
keep on listening in. I got two thoughts that pops up while she was telling me that. First of all, you know how you like to have a living dex, and aim to collect all the Pokedex, whereas I don't have the patience for that. And I've only ever, I have to be honest with myself. I will never ever catch them all. Um, but
Hey, I was working on a living shiny dex for Alpha Sapphire, and I was doing pretty good.
well, that's what I was gonna ask you. So my first
Yeah,
question is when you are creating your living dexes, does it include variants? Do you have
it
different?
does. Yes.
So do you have different Arboks as part of your living dex?
If I can find them, I don't know if there's been a game where you can get lots of different ones yet.
So does that mean that you have to like trade on? You have to trade in.
Yeah, like I definitely would try and get all of the Arboks that were available.
Yeah.
Um,
And then does your living shiny decks also extend to variations of things like Spinder and Arbok
so
in
not
shiny
Spinder
forms?
because every single Spinder is different. It is impossible to get a shiny of every single design of Spinder. But Pokemon that do have variants, that I would, yes, do a shiny variant of all of them. Um, I'm thinking things like, yeah, because like Spinarak has a face on its back. I think if Spinarak had a cute, like different types of faces depending on where it was, I think that would be cute, and I would go and get all of the different Spinaraks as shinies.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
So let's have a final look, see if it says anything about so about Arbok before we give it our own um, uh, note. So, despite not suffering from competition as a coil user, having decent abilities and a nice move pool, Arbok struggles to find its place. Its only average attack and speed and mediocre bulk make it a bad setup sweeper. Gives it a hard time setting up and leave it easily revenge killed and walled by metagame staples such as Oricorio E and Jellicent. So it looks like
Yeah.
it's been just one of those ones that you probably would not, unless you were, like what you're saying,
Yeah.
particularly
If you've
attached.
got a personal emotional connection to it, you'll play with Arbok, much like Gen 3 Professor did.
Yeah, yeah.
However, if not, it does get pushed aside for other options, unfortunately, which is a shame because I do think of it as like a fundamental part of kind of my early memories of Pokemon,
Mm,
but I don't play with it either. I can't blame other people for not playing with it.
no. So, do you have a Talking Trubbish rating?
I think I'm going to stick with a five for Arbok because while it doesn't have the emotional insight that Ekin did, it does have better quality Pokedex entries. So I
Yeah,
think that balances out the difference.
yeah. I say I'm actually going to give it a 6.
Okay.
Because I felt like it did much better than Ekins did in terms of uh, memor um, in terms of the variations, in terms of the lore. I feel like it's a bigger staple in the early anime. Although it's not quite as big of a staple as Weezing and Victory Bell. But yes, I'm gonna give it a 6. But I don't feel like I could give it any higher than a 6.
I think that's valid.